Hi, everybody. Welcome back to In My Plant-Based Kitchen. I'm Emma Levez-Larock. I'm a registered holistic nutritionist and a certified plant-based chef. And for today's episode, episode 22, I thought I would do something a little bit different. I get asked how long I've been vegan, why I went vegan a lot. Probably maybe less so these days than I used to. But it is coming up on 28 years since I first became vegetarian. And I thought I would share my vegan story today because I have been now doing this posting weekly on my YouTube channel since August, so close to 6 months, maybe for 5 months or so. And a lot of people know me here in town and they know my vegan story. But there's lots of people watching who I've never met, and I hear from some of you, and it's lovely. But I thought I would share a little bit more about myself and why I'm here, why I'm doing this today, as just a short episode, in case you're interested, in case it helps you to understand where I'm coming from, what my perspective on things is when you're watching videos in the future, and what my qualifications are. Why should you listen to me? Or I'm not saying you should listen to me, but why should you trust me? So I thought that I'd just tell you a little bit about myself. So I think my vegan journey actually started a long time before I even heard the word vegan. When I was 15, I had my gallbladder out, and it left a scar about that big, which was due to some medical complications at the time, which I won't get into. But I distinctly remember coming out of the hospital or having my surgeon consultation after the surgery. And the doctor said to me, "Do you know why you had to have your gallbladder out?" Because it was completely inflamed and infected, and it was a big problem. I had all kinds of gallstones, and they couldn't just, in that day, that time, I'm old. So it was a much bigger deal. And also, like I said, there were complications. So, and I, 15 years old, no, why? And he said, "Because you don't eat enough fiber." And at the time, or you haven't been eating enough fiber. And at the time, that meant nothing to me. I didn't know what foods had fiber in them. I didn't know what I was or wasn't eating. I did know that I didn't like vegetables, and my mother was always on on my case to try to get me to eat more of them. But I was stubborn, and I was resistant, and I pretty much would eat broccoli and carrots. I think that was about it. Potatoes. But I really was very fussy eater when I was growing up. And despite my mom's and my dad's best efforts, I didn't like eating vegetables. And so that was a big part of the problem. But even at that time, it didn't mean anything to me. But when my sort of moment came was when, skip forward a few years, and I was in university my second year. And a friend asked me if I wanted to go to Environment Club meeting with her. And I thought, oh, I'm interested in the environment, and sure, why not? And it turned out it was a PETA meeting, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. And it was an introduction to me, the first time I had ever heard about factory farming, about concentrated animal feeding operations, about a lot of the horrific things that happen to animals in our food system. And I went home. It was like one of those things that turns your world upside down. And I swore I'm not participating in this anymore. I was a passionate 20-year-old, I think, at the time. And I just thought, I'm not doing that anymore. So I phoned my parents and I told them. My mom started laughing. She said, "You hate vegetables. What are you going to eat?" At the time, I thought vegetarian, right? I didn't realize still the impact of the dairy industry and so on. I won't get into all the details, but what I do want to tell you is that what I did was I basically just cut out meat. I really didn't know how to cook or do much in the kitchen anyway. So I pretty much survived on mac and cheese and grilled cheese sandwiches for a few months, until I've always had a pretty sensitive system. I got sick. I got really sick, and it's because I did it wrong. And I think this is a really important point, because although I was really, really passionate about this. And that is still my main why, is to try to contribute to a more compassionate world and not participate in the cruel animal food system. I I did it wrong. And if you do it wrong, I see stories all the time, and have over the years, of people who I just can't do that. It's not healthy. I did it and I got sick, and so on. And I'm not making comments on what anyone else is doing, but I'm just saying that if you are going to make this transition, it's really important to do your research, because it's a very different way of eating. And it can be the healthiest, I truly believe, the healthiest way to eat, but you do have to do it differently. So that was a really, really important moment for me, and in the hospital, and being told you can't just eat grilled cheese and mac and cheese, you have to eat other food. So what was I going to do? I was faced with a choice. Luckily for me, my older sister, had already gone vegetarian, but she was doing it for health reasons. She was researching eating beans and eating all different kinds of foods that we hadn't really been eating up until that point. And I went to stay with her to work for the summer. And so I got exposed to that information. And also she introduced me to a book called Diet for a New America by John Robbins, who so many of you probably have heard of and read, and just so many people who transition, that's one of the first books they read, especially 20 something years ago. Such an influential book. It's still relevant today, and really powerful story. But I was hooked. I just thought, okay, I have to learn this, because I don't want to. I was still very determined I wasn't going to participate in the system. So I learned, and I learned how to cook. Not that well at first. I had a lot of really gross meals. It was a process. It was a process, as it is for most people. Um, and so I went through that process, and I learned, and I figured it out, and carried on. I learned about the dairy industry, and at that point I ended up going vegan. And truth be told, going back and forth for a little while, because going vegan at that time especially was a lot harder to do, eating out and that kind of thing. It's much easier these days, but it was a process. It was a process over 28 years to get to the way that I eat today. Then fast forward, so I was going along happily as a vegetarian vegan for 10 years or so. And then I started to notice, as I was getting older, start to hear more about the health benefits of a whole foods plant-based diet, which I hadn't heard that term up until then. I started to have some friends who were suffering with chronic lifestyle diseases, and kind of thinking, it would be great if I could share this information with them. But I was just someone who had some book recommendations or documentary recommendations for them. And I had no credibility behind that. And I wanted to learn more. So I decided to go back to school. And at the time, there were no vegan oriented programs, which there are now, which is amazing. Some of the online and in-person programs that Dr. Shireen Kassam has developed in the UK at Winchester University. I think there's Dr. Michael Clapper is doing a lot of that. So there are options now, which is incredible. There are university programs and so on, which I would have loved to have been able to do at the time, but there weren't those things. So I went to the the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, which was really helpful, because it gave me a great background in all the basics of nutrition, and a lot of just to basically the certification as a registered holistic nutritionist. It gave me a really good picture of the idea of health as a whole thing, as all mind, spirit, body, spirit, kind of all involved. And so that was a great thing for me to do. At the same time, I did the program with the School of Natural Cookery, which was also wonderful. And I learned how to cook without recipes. And I'll forever be grateful to Juliana, and the teachers there, who really turned my idea of cooking upside down. And I did that at the same time because I thought, you know what, I think that there is a connection here. It's one thing to be able to just tell people about the benefits of a plant-based diet, of whole foods plant-based diet, but it's another thing to be able to help them do it, to share that with them. So I wanted to be able to do both of those things. And through those different programs and a lot of reading and research on my own, doctors like Dr. Greger, Dr. Clapper, as I mentioned, I became a Food for Life instructor with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. So PCRM was another really influential organization in my learning, and all the resources. It was just incredible amount of resources were coming out at that time, and more information about the benefits of a whole foods plant-based diet. The Canada Food Guide came out with a revision, really very much in support of whole foods plant-based eating. So the science was there, and it was becoming so much more available online with the internet and so on, cookbooks, blogs, et cetera, et cetera. So at that point, in 2016, I graduated from those programs and I started PlantBased R.H.N, which is a business where I was doing workshops and cooking classes, cooking and nutrition combined classes in person, and also doing some consulting with people. And I did that for a few years, and then then COVID hit. And so at that point, I decided to start an online support network group, which is something I had been wanting to do for a while, because people would come to my classes and they'd be inspired and they'd love the cooking and so on. But it was 6 weeks, and then they'd go back out into the world and back out into all the influences that made it possibly a bit more challenging to stick to a healthy whole foods plant-based diet. So I had the support on plant-based eating support network group, and that went on for 2 years. I had only originally planned to do it for 1 year, but it was successful. So I really decided to carry it on for another year, and that was a wonderful experience as well. And then and then I guess that kind of brings me to today and starting this channel, because I'm very, very passionate about trying to share information with people and helping them to transition successfully to becoming exposed to the ideas of whole foods plant-based eating, doing it right, transitioning at a pace that makes sense for you. There is a lot of judgment and a lot of can be a lot, some negativity in the vegan movement, which is actually why I decided to call my business PlantBased R.H.N. It is fully vegan, and as I said, my why is around compassion, but I felt that plant-based was less loaded, and I really love to support people no matter where they're at. If you're interested in learning more about whole foods plant-based eating, even if that looks like 1 meal a day, 1 meal a week, I think those are steps in the right direction. And I really believe in leading with compassion and remembering that all of us at one time, most of us, almost all of us were in the place where we were eating meat and animal products, and there just is no in my mind room for judgment. Everybody does this their own way and finds their own path. But on that note, I think it is really, really important to find your why. And with the health aspect of it, I've seen so many people come to the diet for those reasons. They might have high blood pressure or high cholesterol or diabetes or type 2 diabetes, or an immune disorder or something like that. And I've seen so many people improve, or sometimes even reverse those conditions, come off medication. It's very, very inspiring, rewarding work if you can be a little part of their discovery of a way that you can become healthier just by taking control of what you're putting into your mouth 3 times a day. And so that is a huge why for a lot of people. Other people do come to it like I did from the compassion aspect, or of course a huge piece of it as well is the planet. It helps you to tread much more lightly on the planet, and that's another really great reason to do it. But I think that if you're vegan or plant-based for any length of time, you start to realize like all of these incredible reasons to eat and live this way are so rewarding isn't the right word, but just very gratifying, and it makes your life richer, or certainly has made my life richer for it. So what else did I want to talk about here? Like I said, there is a lot to learn. So I really hope that if you're in a place of just learning about this, that you'll be patient with yourself and compassionate with yourself along your journey, and treat it like a journey. It's not about being perfect. It's progress over perfection. It is really not. We do not live in we do not live in a vegan world, and it's not always easy I think, especially at this time of year, it always comes up because, there's family dinners and traditions of things that people eat at this time of year. And there are certainly ways that you can do it, and lots of tips to be had around that. But it can also be challenging. I think it's important to acknowledge that, and to be kind to yourself and to those around you as well, and just share this wonderful way of eating and living through love rather than judgment. And then on that note, there are a lot of different ways to transition. And I have, through the consulting in particular that I've done over the years, talk to people who do it different ways, and there are different approaches, and different things work for different people. And so January, or Veganuary, is coming up, and so I thought it would be fun to focus the videos in Veganuary around transitioning. And I'll be sharing recipes and tips and thoughts around successfully transitioning, ideas around different ways you can do it, inspiration. And next week, I will kick that all off with sharing some of my top resources. So if you are going in that direction, then you might find something new in some of the things that I talk about, some books and documentaries and websites and cookbooks and so on, and personalities to follow too, because there are so many wonderful doctors, dietitians. I won't be able to share them all, but I will share some of my favorites, and hopefully you can have a look at those and get inspired for Veganuary. That is all I have for you today. Thank you for sharing your valuable time with me and your attention in my plant-based kitchen. I really wanted to make this channel somewhere that people can come and really feel like we're just having a chat. I'm just sharing some of the things that I've learned over the years, some of the recipes that I've developed or picked up or love, that make eating healthy plant-based foods easier, more inspiring, because it really is a lifestyle that has so many wonderful benefits. It's delicious. It can be beautiful. It is so rewarding in lots of ways. So if you have something that you'd love to hear about, I have had a few requests, and I have a list going, so I will be getting to those in the coming weeks. But if you do have something that you'd love to hear me talking about in more depth, send me a request in the form below. Subscribe to my newsletter if you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes, or click on the notification button on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, all those good things. Thank you again for joining me. We'll see you again soon.